We've talked about hated characters within the comic verse, and we've talked about characters that are hated outside of the comic verse, who were hated by fans. And on this part 3, we're going to talk about a little bit of both. In other words, we're going to look at some bad deeds that some otherwise heroic people have committed. So get ready for some hate, and keep in mind that without hate, there can be no love. In other words, if you disagree with me and you love some of these characters, be sure to let us know in the comments below. Not going to lie, some of the characters that I really love even made the cut. Sad face. Let's see if you can guess who those are. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10, Black Widow. Okay, so obviously I love Natasha, but there are some pretty terrible things that she has done, especially the ultimate version of her. And for that, her character deserves some hate. Or maybe Mark Miller, who created the Marvel Ultimate Universe, deserves some hate, but regardless, someone definitely deserves some hate. Natasha has been known to use her feminine wiles to get her way and manipulate people only to betray them, but she usually does so for the greater good. In the Ultimate series, however, we see her get close to Tony only to betray him and the United States. And when Tony is genuinely surprised by this, as I think we all kind of were, she asks him what he expected, as she is after all a Russian spy. Wow, I mean, someone deserves the hate for the way her character is presented, at least. Seriously, Natasha? Why though? She also kills Jarvis in this series. Oh, and her and Tony have a sex tape. Oh, Ultimates. Number 9, Jason Todd. So in my mind, all Robins have deserved some hate at some point. They all have a bit of a brattiness to them that just makes you want to hate them. Jason Todd included. Well, he has now been redeemed in many fans' eyes when he went off to do his own thing as the Red Hood. He was previously disliked by fans. He only originally died in the comics because so many called into DC to vote him killed, after DC left a statement at the back of the comics, letting readers know that his fate would be left in their hands. After he was resurrected, he did the same thing a lot of Robins have done that royally bothers Batman, threatened to kill people, and then actually killed some people. Granted, his focus was to kill Gotham's criminals, but this still has never set well with Batman. And he really hates when his Robins can't follow the Bat family code of not killing. It's so easy, guys, just don't kill. Jason even tried to become the Bat in Bruce's absence, and did such a dreadful job that the Robins had to fight him to take it back. Everyone knows that job belonged to Dick Grayson. Number 8, Midnighter. Midnighter is violent to a fault. His abilities allow him to see the outcome of situations, which he could use to avoid violence and resolve things as neatly and cleanly as possible. However, while he uses his precognitive abilities to win a fight, he actually immensely enjoys violence, which means sometimes he'll drag out that fight. If you think I'm exaggerating, you should check out his Grindr profile in the comics. Yikes. His gratuitous violence is part of the reason why he deserves the hate, unless you are really into that sort of thing, and then maybe to you he just deserves more love. The hero out of DC's Wildstorm universe was once married to his teammate Apollo. While we were sad to see the gay couple's marriage dissolve, it seems fair given how much of a jerk Midnighter is. In the comics, we even see a time where he walks out on Apollo after declaring he already knows how this fight is going to end. Not even trying for a resolution? Talk about undervaluing your relationship. Number 7, Captain Ultra. Captain Ultra may have been lurking in the background, but that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve some hate too. The only reason he is ranked so low on this list actually is because he is a background character. Other than the fact that he has amazing powers, everything else about him kinda makes the reader and the characters want to hate him. He is often presented as being cocky and arrogant as a hero. His costume is also pretty heinous. Beyond that, even other heroes in the comics tend to try and distance themselves from him. They usually aren't perceived as liking him too much. He initially lays claim to Hellcat when he meets her because he's attracted to her, as though she is some kind of object that, he could lay claim to. And he attacks the Avengers! Sure, he's part of Wonder Man's Revengers at the time, so it comes as no surprise, but his reason for joining the team is because he was jealous of the Avenger team, and held a grudge against them after they denied him membership. Basically, Captain Ultra is an overpowered whiny baby. I hate whiny babies. Just kidding. Babies are fine. Number 6, Superior Spider-Man. Some people have expressed that Spider-Man gets hate from other Marvel heroes and that he gets some audience hate for his love life. While I would agree that this can be a bit of an issue for the web slinger Peter Parker, I don't think any version of Spider-Man has ever seen or deserved deserved as much hate as Superior Spider-Man. Some may want to argue that Doc Ock's version of Spider-Man can't be seen as a hero due to the fact that Doc Ock himself is so villainous, but I would argue that Superior Spider-Man represents a merging of the two minds, and that his goal was to be a better hero than Spider-Man himself. Well, that and, avoid dying. From trapping Peter Parker's consciousness in his dying body, to the violent ways he decides to dole out justice, Superior Spider-Man has received a lot of internal and external hate for his behavior. Beyond that, he pridefully boasted that he was the best Spider-Man, but then could not even stop the Green Goblin. Also, he deserves some hate for punching Black Cat and knocking out one of her teeth. Number 5. Iron Man. Well, we may all love Tony Stark today due to Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of him in the MCU. Let's be honest, Robert Downey Jr. is basically Iron Man. We also have to acknowledge some of his history, and it is some of his past choices that haven't always made him quite so loved by fans and fellow Avengers teammates. Let's go to one of my favorite events to lovingly hate, The Crossing. In this event, Tony was the bad guy after we found out that he was working for Kang the entire time. The Hail Hydra scenario before that was a thing. Either way, equally awful. His involvement in the storyline was also kind of beyond bizarre. What's worse is that this isn't the only time Tony has been presented as the bad guy. Nope. Let's not forget the events of Civil War, where he played Captain Marvel's role a la Civil War II, being the bad guy who sought to control and restrict all supers. He was also quite villainous in the events of Superior Iron Man, which explored a reality where evil Tony was able to shield himself from Scarlet Witch's spell to undo the weird superhero supervillain persona reversal that she had actually caused. He did a thing that any millennial would condemn him for: offered people a free app. But the app wasn't really free. It was just a trial period. And after it became crazy popular, it was an app after all that allowed you to, change your appearance, and the trial period had ended, it charged people $99.99 a day to keep using it. No! Number 4. Captain America. You didn't think I was going to let Cap off that easy though, did you? Just because he was the good guy in Civil War when he went up against Tony doesn't mean that he's particularly any better when it comes to his dastardly deeds. Cap, after all, has had his own fair share of hate tossed his way by characters in the comics. And outside of the comics, he does occasionally get labeled as a safe or boring character. And while I see that, I don't tend to find it particularly problematic for him, as the things people hate him for seem so ingrained in his being. Ignoring the whole Hail Hydra event, there are still plenty of deeds that have made other heroes condemn Cap in the comics. Let's take a look at some of them, shall we? In the events of Civil War II, he concocted a plot to kill Hulk, to protect the Earth from a simple, potential future. In Civil War I, he severely beat up Frank Castle, who refused to fight back after the Punisher killed 2 villains. What makes that really awful is that Frank refused to even take a swing at Cap, and rather than throw a few punches and just call it quits, Cap decides to beat him to a pulp. And then within the wheelhouse of Hydra-related evil deeds, he also killed his BFF Bucky. No! Number 3. Punisher. What's worse than killing a few X-Men? How about killing all of the mutants, including the Brotherhood, with a nuke, while pitting them against one another? That's just straight up cold. This happens in the one-shot Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe. That's right, if you thought Deadpool was bad, Punisher was killing the Marvel Universe before it was cool, in the mid-90s. Beyond this, Punisher has also been a character who has gotten a lot of hate as a result of him being too violent. He's often seen as a character that represents an obsession with violence and the belief of an eye for an eye. I won't lie, I do feel bad for Frank Castle, but what he stands for as a hero in light of the issues we face in the real world modern day make him problematic, and definitely deserving of at least some hate. Number 2. Superman. There are almost as many reasons to love Superman as there are to hate him. One thing his character suffers from is the goody two-shoes syndrome, similarly to Captain America. That is to say, he's kind of boring, good to a fault, predictable. Except for when he is not and is a complete jerk for no reason. Don't believe me? If you go back to the 50s and 70s in the comics, Superman really wasn't that great of a guy at all. Sure, he saved the world, but he also adopted Jimmy Olsen only to criticize and torment him. Granted, we later find out that because he'd heard a prophecy that harm would come to his son, but rather than tell Jimmy this, he simply is a jerk to Jimmy until Jimmy decides he no longer wants to be Superman's son. And sure, that was for a somewhat noble cause, but what about all the times he's tormented Lois Lane? There's a time in the Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane series where he actually breaks up with Lois just to elicit and capture an emotional response from her, so he can prove to a film director that she should play herself in a movie about Superman's life. Wow. And let's not forget what the alternate storyline Superman Red Son teaches us about Superman's potential for evil and red fascism. Yeesh. Number 1. Hank Pym. You asked for him on part 1, you asked for him on part 2, and I heard your cries of injustice. Many of you have brought up that he beat his wife, Janet, which is also hugely problematic and reason for fans to hate him. This happened in the original Avengers series and resulted in him being kicked out of the Avengers, and Janet deciding to divorce him. As strange as it sounds, this altercation actually seems like nothing when compared with what the ultimate version of Hank did to his wife. After getting in an argument, the Wasp shrinks down to get away from him, and he assaults her with bug spray. While she coughs up toxic fumes, he also sicks an ant army on her. This fight in the Ultimate series was even worse and left Janet hospitalized, leaving Hank hated by readers and by characters in the comics. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed this list and learned some villainous things about some otherwise superheroes. Do you think these heroes deserve the hate? Who do you think deserves the most hate? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love to hate your favorite heroes, be sure to also check out our part 1 and 2 of this list and get your hate on. I personally feel like everyone deserves a little hate now and then. It means that they have a well-rounded character. Like I said before, we can't have love without some hate. While you're clicking around, don't forget to click that like, subscribe, and bell so you never miss another nerdy list. This is Top 10 Nerd, and my name is Amanda McKnight, reminding you as always to stay nerdy, YouTube.